filming? If so, that's good, because welcome to another one of these Quickie reviews. What I mean by Quickie review, I mean by it's not necessarily as formal or scriptive as the Chucky review or Jackass review or that Simpsons review which I've done, which is surprisingly the most popular one I've done so far. Maybe I should do more animated episodes, like bad ones in general. That didn't go so well. So, if you couldn't read the title, this is about Black Panther. As I said back in my Justice League review, which was back in November, I think it was. I'm not going to do like these Quickie reviews for, every film that's released, because I don't do that. I don't go to the cinemas every week to watch a film. I'm only going to do this for like mainly superhero nerdy crap, basically. So Black Panther, the reviews for it have been positive. However, it suffered from the Last Jedi syndrome, where a bunch of fans are really unhappy about it, so they're going to give it negative reviews because of, let's be honest now, nitpicks. Straight off the bat, I love this film. I think it's a very good film. Of all the films that have political commentary behind it, because I know a lot of people really complain about this, and I do apologise. I do apologise for that. I think I'm coming down with a cold. What was I? Oh yeah, political commentaries. This one certainly had one of the better ones, because I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, you're a social justice warrior if you like the political commentary in this film, but hear me out. They clearly say that, these black extremists are just as bad. They are saying these people are fucking evil as well. It was one of these films that does show off both sides of the coin when it comes to these, social issues, etc. But aside from that, you also have great characters from, of course, Black Panther himself. I forgot his name. I think it's called Forrest. Basically, the guy that played Saw Gerrera in Star Wars. He was a great character as well, even though his screen time was surprisingly short compared to what you see on the poster. Because I always judge things based on posters usually, when it comes to characters. Like, if this character is on the poster, he's going to have a large role, and of course Saw Gerrera's role, not Saw Gerrera as in the Star Wars character, but the actor, I should reiterate, he was a fun character, even though he doesn't have all that much there. Andy Serkis as Claw is just a load of fun. I absolutely loved his performance. He was great. And Claw in the comics looks fucking ridiculous in my opinion. So I'm glad they got rid of that and made this more cool looking, more realistic looking, I should say, Claw. Certainly one of the better Marvel villains. Of course, the love interest, once again, I'm awful when it comes to names, so I do apologise about the names, but she was great. Same with the general lady, she was badass. Yeah, a lot of the characters are great. The story is great. Of course, the story can be a little bit of a repeat of what we've seen before. You've got this, warrior, king, or prince, I should say, who's going to become king, and of course, a challenger approaches, he gets defeated the first time, and then he wins the second fight. It's the same sort of stuff in some ways to what we've seen before in other films. I'm not just talking about Marvel films, but Marvel always puts a little twist, a little spin on it, and I applaud it for that. It's a load of fun. The suit, all the sciencey stuff involving the suit, because his younger sister, she builds all this sciencey crap. I absolutely adore it. I mean, it's brilliant. This sort of simulation of driving a car, or this simulation of driving one of these weird-looking dragonfly-like ships, which is something I'm going to point out in a minute. I really loved. Of course, the suit, the fact that every time you get hit, you can absorb the impact, and then you can just blast out this like shockwave and get rid of all the bad guys. Just like that. It does almost make him overpowered in some ways, because he's essentially indestructible, but then again, I consider Black Panther the black version of Batman, because he's a rich motherfucker who goes out and saves innocent people in a black suit dressed as an animal. So you know, even if it is overpowered, that power, I absolutely adored it. As I was saying about animals, a lot of the movie I found had this brilliant way of world building. There's these different tribes, and they all like have this animalistic behaviour to them. I absolutely love these gorilla men who, you know, were like the outsiders, the castaways, the who of course become good in the end. Who, well, they are good already, but you know they become like part of the community at the end. Because they're very anti-technology, you know, and they're sort of like the Yuuzhan Vong from the Star Wars Legends in some ways, except they're gorilla men. That does sound very racist considering the black cast, I know, but they are, they even say it themselves, they're, you know, gorillas. Of course, then you have the rhino people, which all wear blue. You got sort of these snake-looking people who wear green, and of course the Black Panther, which is the black and purple robes. All of them, it's quite an interesting, you know, set, I would say, an interesting way of design. I mean, the costumes for this is absolutely amazing. I love all the warrior women, the royal guards. I love the red and the gold armour plating. It's perfect in my opinion. However, of course, despite all the positivity for this film, there are two big flaws which have sort of downgraded my rating, which was, when I first started watching the film, it was certainly up there in the 8, 9 and 10s. However, these two big flaws brung it down to a 7 out of 10 when I rated it on IMDb, and there's something that I can't really, I know it's going to sound silly and childish, but it's something I can't really ignore in some ways. I know I can ignore it in some other films, but here I just couldn't really ignore it. I talk about the first one, which I know everyone who has seen the film has a problem with, and that is the CGI. I agree with everyone. It is the worst CGI you'll ever see in any of the Marvel films. I was mentioning about the rhino people who wear blue. There's one main character who leads the rhino tribe. Once again, I'm awful at names, so I do apologise. And basically, he stood there and he's about to feed a rhino, and the rhino looks like something you'd expect from these cheap Brazilian cartoon films. It is that god awful. And what's worse is they bring the rhinos back for the final battle at the end, and it's like, oh, it's cringeworthy to see the CGI. And what's worse is you have these open landscapes, which look brilliant. You know, this fictional, you know, metropolis in Africa. It looks brilliant. But then you have the rhinos, you know, the animals. You have the vehicles. These are technologically advanced vehicles swooping around. Because even the vehicles, by the way, I should mention, are very animalistic in design. Because you've got ones that look like beetles, ones that look like dragonflies, in fact. Which I actually thought was a really nice touch. But by God, it looks awful. And then another bad case of CGI is whenever Black Panther's in a big action sequence, whether it be with Claw or Killmonger, pardon me, you can always see that it almost looks cartoonish. Like I think Doug Walker, nostalgia critic for those who don't know, he said it best. The CGI is like an early 2000s CGI. It is god awful in this film, and it really becomes distracting when it's like shoved in your face, like the rhino, for example. Which, by the way, I know it's a movie mistake. You have the rhino, and then it cuts to the love interest talking, and the rhino disappears. That's just a tangent of mine. I do that quite a lot, but I noticed it, and I don't know if anyone else did. So my other big flaw with the film, which I know is going to piss off a lot of people, and that's because I know how popular this character is, how many people are saying he's one of the best villains that we've seen in a Marvel film, and that is Killmonger, if you can guess already. As you saw earlier, I praised the living hell out of Claw, saying he was this over-the-top, you know, joy of a villain. His performance is memorable. Killmonger, a character who I completely forgot about immediately after I watched the film, despite being the main villain of the film, is not memorable. For one thing, his ambition to take revenge because he's lost everything, we've seen it before. Zemo from Civil War, he had almost the exact same reasoning for his, massacres, his murders, and then a lot of people were also saying, he's such a sympathetic villain. He isn't. He is pure evil from the bottom up, and it's a real shame because I know people will like this film. I know people will enjoy this film. I can understand if you do. I just didn't. I found him to be boring. Michael B. Jordan, I've seen him in Creed. Creed is a brilliant film, and I will admit, shamefully, that is the only performance I've seen him in do that I actually really liked. Because you have Fantastic, which is a piece of shit, and every other role that I've seen him in is quite minuscule compared to this film, and I can tell he's doing his best, but I don't know, Killmonger was just so boring on screen, and what's worse is, spoiler alert, in case you couldn't guess already, because this video was just going to be a big spoiler anyway. Andy Serkis's character, Claw, gets killed off by Killmonger, and it really annoys me because Claw was a villain that was so interesting. He was someone that had history. Killmonger, his only history is he was the son of Black Panther's uncle, who was brother to Black Panther's father, and he witnessed his father's death. Well, he didn't necessarily witness his father's death, but he came home to see his father dead, and he felt that Wakanda had betrayed them, and then his ambition is to colonize the entire world with the Wakandan weapons because he's a warmonger essentially, and that's about it. That's his only ambition. And I think one of my biggest concerns was the fact that they got rid of a really fun villain like Claw just for this one, who is emotionless. And I know, they do say in the film that he was trained to be quite emotionless, to be this, murderous monster, essentially. And it just kind of sucks. It's really downplayed as well. I'm not saying that all villains should be over the top like Claw, but why get rid of a great villain and replace it with one that's sort of mediocre? That's my biggest concern. I know a lot of people like this villain, and I said already, if you like Killmonger, you like him. He just didn't work out for me, and it became really distracting as he became this, he was essentially a complete monster throughout the film. And I felt like this was one of the problems with the final act of the film, is that people almost completely obey him simply because he won the match against Black Panther, and no one decides to resist against him. I mean, I know the general, wants to, but she can't because she's doing it for her country. And I know that, of course, Black Panther's mother, sister, and love interest, they go off to betray him. But still, no one else thought this guy was a complete psychopath. Why did the Rhino guy automatically, trust him? All because Claw, got away. This stranger who just pops out of nowhere. I will admit, I felt like that final act was a little bit rushed, to say the very least. The whole big battle. And Killmonger just, I know I'm harping on a bit, but Killmonger, he was boring. He was just boring. I did not care about him at all. I didn't care that he got killed. In fact, I was actually happy that he got killed. And, at least with good villains, you often have this sympathetic mood towards him. With Killmonger, I didn't feel sympathetic for him. I thought he was a complete monster, and I know other people felt sympathetic for him, which is why, I guess that's why they like him. I honestly do think Killmonger might end up becoming, this diversive villain, to say the very least, because I know I'm not the only one that doesn't like Killmonger, who preferred Claw. I've seen some of the comments in previous other videos, but still, if you like him, you like him. But as I was saying earlier, these two big flaws with the film, I felt, kind of brought it down a bit, and from something that was originally going to be an 8, 9 or 10 out of 10, it sort of dropped down to like the 7s because of those big flaws, which, you know, the more I kept thinking about it, the more I started to really hate it even more. And I'm not saying that Black Panther is bad at all. As I said at the beginning, it is a fantastic film. It's just, it's heavily flawed, and I think some people kind of just judge it for, you know, oh, it's really breaking new ground, when really it hasn't broken any new ground. All they've done is, you know, have a cast which is black instead of white this time. And, you know, there's no problem with that. I'm not saying, you know, there's any problem with that. But you got to remember, that's not really much of a change if you really think about it. You know, and it doesn't really affect the storyline, it doesn't affect the type of characters you get. You know, the same type of characters we've seen before. That said, I still love the film, and using my typical percentage, my personal percentage, I will give this film an 80%, well, 79%/80%, because honestly, those two flaws, the CGI and Killmonger, almost too distracting for me to ignore. And yeah, overall, it's a great film. It's great at world building. It's great at, you know, having all these great characters. I almost forgot about Martin Freeman's character, who was also a lot of fun, I felt. I'm glad to see him back, and I'm glad that he survived, you know, because I honestly thought he got killed at one point, but he survived. Yeah, as I said, Black Panther's a very good film. I'm sure you will enjoy it. I'm sure if you're a Marvel fan, you'll definitely enjoy it. But do keep in mind, the CGI is universally hated by most people who have seen it. And Killmonger is a popular character, but of course in my case, I didn't really like him that much. I preferred Claw. But then again, that's just my opinion, and I'm sure you all have your opinions.